Yeah. Oh. Well, she met the Noah.
Dieser Noah, wie sah der aus?
Oh, this should be interesting. Okay.
Jedes kleine Detail ist wichtig.
She's... Okay. Oh, those eyes. I was gonna say, he might need to step in, maybe.
Wo warst du in der Nacht, als Mikkel verschwunden ist?
Oh. It's going there.
Wie lange?
Oh. Okay, that's not quite the response I was expecting, but okay.
Hallo Bartosz. Mein Name ist Noah.
Whoa.
Woher kennen Sie meinen Namen?
Hallo Martha.
Oh, what are you doing, Hannah?
Ich wollte das zu Katharina.
Anna,
Oh, she's soaked.
Danke für das Essen. Gerne.
Oh boy. She's getting a...
Du brauchst wirklich. Ruf mich an.
She's going to recognize that smell. Yeah, she did. There's that look. She really got in there, huh? Into the hair, the shoulder.
Ist das wichtig?
ja, natürlich.
The resemblance is there. Yeah, it is there. You see the hair, he's got the straight hair as well. Easy now, Regina. Don't be messing around here, just... The hat. This is it. This is the guy the farmer was talking about, right? Oh, it is Noah.
Pfarrer der St. Christophorus-Gemeinde.
The new priest, a good man.
Mich angerufen. Glaubst du an Gott?
Blue eyes, yeah.
Was glaubst du dann, wie die Welt entstanden ist? Wer all die schönen Dinge erschaffen hat?
Die Welt ist durch den Urknall entstanden. Vor
Mm.
13,8 Milliarden Jahren.
Nichts kann aus nichts entstehen.
Mein Vater sagt, Religion ist Volksverdummung.
Es ist gut, dass er dich erzogen hat, Dinge in Frage zu stellen, aber von Zeit zu Zeit sollte man auch mal die Frage stellen. Gott hat einen Plan für jeden Menschen. Auch für dich.
Oh, look at this. I just love the tone of this, man. Moody and dreary.
Okay, hör einfach auf.
It's not gonna be that easy though, Ulrich.
Ich kann das nicht mehr.
Nicht das für dich, ja?
Ruf mich nicht an, komm nicht vorbei. Lass uns einfach in Ruhe. Okay?
No, not okay. She's not just gonna leave, man. Oh god, that smile. Oh boy. Wow, this has been... Hey, you. There you go. She's not gonna like that. Wow.
Ich will kein AIDS und ich will keine Kinder.
Oh, you don't want kids, do you? He asked her that question in episode 1. Who wanted kids?
Das ist kein Witz. Keine Kinder. Niemand.
Oh, is that so?
Zunächst einmal wird das Jugendamt die Fürsorge übernehmen. Das heißt, bis wir seine Familie ermittelt haben und die Situation etwas besser einschätzen können.
No.
Ein Heim?
This is it. This is it.
Das ist zu seinem Besten.
Don't let him go, Ines. Don't let him go.
Haben Sie Kinder?
Nein. Ich hatte einen Sohn, der ist kurz nach der Geburt gestorben.
Oh.
Oh, das tut mir leid.
Als damals mein Bruder verschwunden ist, haben die hier so ziemlich jeden Fehler
Yeah,
gemacht.
there it is. Botched. Tiedemann. No, of course, you have to feel for Tiedemann as well.
Der Ermittler war ein versoffener Vollidiot.
I shouldn't laugh, but I feel bad for Tiedemann.
Das ist 33 Jahre her.
Probably feels like he's making the same mistakes.
33 Jahre.
Okay.
Das ist gleich.
He's mentioned 33 years twice now in quick succession.
Unsere Kalender stimmen nicht. Das Jahr ist eigentlich nicht 365 Tage lang. Wir sind sozusagen immer ein bisschen aus der Taktung. Aber alle 33 Jahre ist alles wieder genauso, wie es war.
Whoa.
Die Sterne, die Planeten, das ganze Universum ist wieder...
This is new to me.
Der lunar-solare Zyklus.
The lunar solar. Oh, well, I mean, not the lunar
Mein
solar cycle,
Großvater war
but...
besessen von solchen Dingen. Big Bang und Big Crunch. Nietzsches ewige Wiederkunft desgleichen.
Who is your grandfather?
Dasselbe Gefühl habe ich jetzt wieder.
Charlotte.
Dass sich alles wiederholt. Dass es das alles schon gegeben hat. Wie ein
Every 33 years. Like Marta mentioned, right? Oh my god. This is insane.
Siehst ihm ähnlich. Dein Vater.
Kennen wir uns?
What a shot, man. It's a complicated question, Jonas.
Er hat mir damals das Leben gerettet.
Hm.
Aber das habe ich erst sehr viel später verstanden. Das Leben
Okay.
ist ein Labyrinth. Manche irren darin bis zu ihrem Ende herum und suchen nach einem Ausweg. Dabei gibt es nur einen Weg und der führt immer tiefer hinein. Erst wenn man die Mitte erreicht hat, wird man verstehen. Der Tod ist etwas Unbegreifliches. Man kann sich
Whoa.
mit ihm versöhnen. Bis dahin solltest du dich jeden Tag fragen, ob du die richtigen Entscheidungen getroffen hast.
That's insane. Oh. I get emotional anytime I see Mikkel now, man. Just, you know, knowing the things he's going through.
Weißt du, was ich mir manchmal vorstelle? Dass ich zaubern kann. Also,
Ah,
ich stell mir vor,
that's right up his
dass ich
alley.
will. Ganz doll. Und das passiert dann, weil ich es mir
Oh
vorstelle.
boy.
Kennst du Houdini?
There you go. He's opening up.
Houdini, einer der größten Zauberer der Welt. Keine Zauberei, nur Illusion. Die Dinge verändern sich nur, wenn wir sie verändern.
Hmm,
Aber man
how about
muss
that?
es geschickt tun, im Verborgenen. Dann wirkt es wie Zauberei.
It's the subtext here, man.
Woher kannst du das?
Ich komme aus der Zukunft.
Du bist cool.
Nee, ich bin Mikkel.
No, you are cool, my
Hallo,
dude.
Mikkel, Junge aus der Zukunft. Ich bin Hannah.
There it is. Aww. It was great to see him smile there.
Von meinem Vater. Ein Wesen aus der Unterwelt. Das alles vergeben, aber nichts vergessen soll.
Don't look.
Von da an wusste ich, dass sich nichts ändert.
She just happened to be there too.
Ein Schicksal geknüpft an das nächste.
A fate tied to the next.
Ein Faden.
Oh, there's a lot going on here. A thread, a red thread like blood. Bartosz? Can I count on you? Oh boy, is this gonna create a bit of friction now?
Was im Sommer zwischen uns passiert ist, das war nicht einfach nur nichts, oder?
Last
Wenn
summer,
mein Vater
eh?
sich nicht
Oh boy. There you. Hmm. Oh yeah. There's going to be friction, all right. Oh, this alley, man. It might have been the same alley Claudia was parked in, right? In past and present, maybe. And of course, in episode 1, I think it's becoming clear Noah is a time traveler. He's speaking with Mikkel in 1986. Then he's on the phone with him. If that's him in the car right now, holy shit. And why does he know Bartosz?
Ich bin Bartosz.
Yeah,
Ich bin Noah.
he knows. Holy shit.
Willst du nicht einsteigen?
Of course, yep. Huh. Whoa, that is pretty accurate. All right, Katharina.
Betrügst du mich? Ich frag dich das nur einmal. Betrügst du mich?
Das würde ich niemals tun.
Oh boy.
Ulrich hat ihre Brüste angefasst und hat sich auf sie draufgelegt. Und sie wollte es nicht.
Oh.
Und ihren Mund zugehalten.
Oh.
So.
She was capable of that at that age, so imagine. Now, Tiedemann has a reason. He's had a hard-on for Ulrich anyways, right? He's probably so confused right now. He's like, I've got you now. He scares me, man. Look at this casting though. Oh. Well, she's got blood there. That conversation must have been interesting. Wow. What happened in that car, man? And yeah, this is the... Yeah, Mikkel came out of here. Ha, how cool. Something else down there. Holy shit, is that the letter? It is.
Wenn du das liest, ist alles bereits unwiederbringlich geschehen. Wir kennen nicht einmal die Hälfte der Mysterien dieser Welt. Wir sind Wanderer in der Dunkelheit. Am 4. November 2019 bin ich durch die Zeit ins Jahr 1986 gereist. Der Junge aus der Zukunft blieb und wurde mit der Zeit ein Mann. Aus Mikkel wurde Michael. Wenn du dies liest...
This really hit me hard, man.
Mikkel? Ich hoffe, du kannst mir verzeihen. Alles ist miteinander verbunden. Mikkel. Michael.
That is good casting too. Yeah, Jonas. Understandable, man. Whoa! Almost midnight?
Kann ich Ihnen helfen?
HG Tannhaus. Tannhaus.
Ich gerne mit Ihnen über die Zeit unterhalten.
Folks, this show. Wow. Okay, folks, that was quite the episode. Now, you know, at the midpoint, it certainly felt like a major episode in the series, in the season. You know, a major episode for this story. You know, I got a bunch of answers, a bunch of revelations, you know, and some confirmations on some of some of the theories I had, or some of the directions I was heading into. Some confirmed, some debunked, right? But yeah. Wow, that's got to be, yeah, it's certainly a contender for best episode of the series so far. Though I'm not 100% sure if it is the best. You know, I've enjoyed the first few episodes quite a bit. So yeah, but it's certainly up there in terms of the importance of it to the story, right? And again, it certainly felt like the midpoint of the season. I mean, some of these revelations actually felt like season finale moments, right? So that in itself is actually quite exciting, that, you know, stuff of this magnitude is being confirmed, or, you know, is heading into certain directions already at the midpoint. You know, it's that incredible feeling, and it's usually a rare feeling, but, you know, you can tell really early on, be it a film or a show, that, yeah, this is about to become one of your all-time favorites, right? It happens, and, you know, I have that feeling. I already have that feeling. I was already just, you know, incredibly hooked and invested in this story and the characters of this story. Oh my goodness. But, you know, this episode, yeah. This is, I can already tell, this is going to be one of my all-time favorite things. It just has everything I want from a show. It just does, from a story. Yeah, it's like beating a dead horse, but it's the most up my alley show, maybe ever. You know, maybe ever. There's a good chance it might be. Now I'll get into the episode soon enough, but let's stick to the finale there, or sorry, the conclusion of the episode, the ending of the episode. It's you know, so clear now that they have such a knack for just fantastic cliffhangers, right? Really keeping you hooked, and really keeping you coming back for that next episode, right? So yeah, you know, once again, you know, they've used H.G. Tannhaus as the cliffhanger, but this time it's actually much more substantial than a quick glimpse or, you know, a small setup. This time, you know, there's a setup for something quite fascinating, something quite exciting, because our stranger, our mystery man, has now, once again, time traveled, right? They made it really clear that he's time traveled, right? They showed us a progression from the hotel room, that he needs to step off for a few days and he would like to keep the room, of course. And then, of course, he goes to the caves and then he comes out the other side. And again, that was identical to the exit or the entrance of the cave Mikkel came out of in 1986. So yeah, I mean, he is in 1986. They essentially confirm it right at the end as he walks into the shop, right? The clockmaker's shop. Again, quite an impressive clockmaker because he doubles as plenty of other things as well, right? He is an impressive individual. And, you know, speaking of impressive individuals, there might actually be a connection to another one that is around. I mean, they're around in all the timelines, essentially, but, you know, in the present timeline, I'll get into that in a bit because I think there's strong hints here that, you know, he could be related to Charlotte. Kind of going off on a tangent here, but, you know, I'll circle back to my conclusion segment. You know, there's strong hints in this episode and last episode as well, right? The big moment being this pocket watch for Charlotte. You know, it shows up, and this Noah figure who I get to see quite a bit of in this episode. I mean, you know, introduced in the last episode, right? Or just the beginnings of an introduction, you know, his name's being mentioned here and there. Now, by the end of this episode, he is established as one of the big major players of this narrative, right? And this time travel aspect and the things at play, the moving pieces at play, right? He is someone who knows about the things that are going on here, right? He is. And he seems to have immediate access to the time traveling aspect of this, right? He is able to time travel. They confirm it in this episode, right? By showing him in two different timelines or 2 different years. You know, at one end he's speaking with Mikkel, and that's quite a fantastic scene in itself, in the hospital room, right? And that's in 1986. And yeah, this is the man that Farmer spoke of. You know, there's a new priest in town, a good man, according to him, right? Then you see him in 2019 showing up in a Rolls Royce, right? So he has connections. From the looks of it, he has connections. You know, he almost feels like the opposite of Stranger, who firmly feels like a lone wolf to me. But I keep deviating here. Let me circle back to this point, then I can get back to the conclusion. Charlotte and H.G. Tannhaus. I think there could be a relation there. You know, she mentioned that there's a great segment, you know, as she's explaining the 33-year cycle, that everything is as it was 33 years ago. And you see that she is quite knowledgeable on that aspect. You know, and she mentioned that her grandfather is into these things, right? Or obsessed with these kind of things, be it, you know, the Big Bang, be it this 33-year cycle. And, you know, in the last episode, I speculated that maybe, you know, this pocket watch was made by this, the watchmaker, essentially, right? H.G. Tannhaus. But this episode kind of takes it a step further, right? By giving us a few clues and hints. Not only was that potentially made by him, that was potentially made by her own grandfather, right? So that is a possibility. Let's put a pin in that. Because again, you know, these things she's going into, they really sound like the things our narrator, our, you know, watchmaker, our scientist friend kind of goes into, right? In his narration, similar, you know, elements or topics. So yeah, let's put a pin in that and see if that turns out to be the right path on this. You know, let's see. But let me go back to our friend at the end there, H.G. Tannhaus. And, you know, like I mentioned, he is becoming a bit of a cult type figure for me in this story. And, you know, finally, it looks like they've set up a full-on proper scene. And it promises to be something quite exciting. It's quite the exciting prospect because our mystery man, our stranger, has traveled back to 1986 and he wants to talk about time, right? And he knows, clearly he knows about H.G. Tannhaus. He knows how important he is to all of this. But the really exciting part of this, the really exciting prospect of this is the fact that our stranger, our mystery stranger is now in 1986. He's in his shop and he's carrying that steampunk contraption that they confirmed, you know, they showed us in the other cliffhanger that it was indeed H.G. Tannhaus who created that contraption or who built that contraption, right? Now, you know, the question, you know, there is a bit of an unknown here, you know, again, I don't know yet if that was that scene itself, you know, if that was before he meets Mystery Stranger or after, right? It's possible it could be after this meeting. It is possible because, you know, he completes it. Now, again, the cool thing here is that, he's going to talk to him and he is going to pull that thing out, right? He's going to show him. So that should set up quite the fascinating reaction from Tannhaus, right? Here he's going to see something he recognizes, right? Surely he's going to recognize it. Or, the other angle on this is that, he's actually seeing the contraption, but he hasn't actually built it yet, right? It might be an idea or a concept or a notion in his mind, maybe. And, as I keep repeating his name, Tannhaus, I'm starting to think maybe this is a reference to Blade Runner, the Tannhauser Gate, right? It's possible because, there's a lot of other references. HG itself is a reference again. And of course, the Tannhauser Gate is mentioned during that iconic, one of the greatest moments in cinema history, right? Roy's monologue, Tears and Rain monologue. He mentions the Tannhauser Gate. I'm pretty confident this might be a reference to that. Given the sci-fi element of this show. And, before I do go any further, I highly recommend Blade Runner. I believe it's the greatest science fiction film of all time. It's certainly my favorite science fiction film of all time. Actually, it's my favorite film of all time, right? It's had a major impact on my love for film and cinema. A lot of that started with Blade Runner. So yeah, I highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. But yeah, I certainly see some inspiration. I see some Blade Runner inspiration in this show. And not just that, a lot of other, I feel like it's similar to a lot of other films. I'm thinking of Fincher. You think of movies or films like Seven, Gone Girl, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, right? Zodiac. A lot of them have that really moody tone, right? The atmospheric, unsettling, moody tone. That transportive quality about it, right? And this show has that. It's always raining, and the score certainly adds to that mood. And all of these films I'm mentioning have that score. Score plays a major part in establishing that moody tone of those films. And the score certainly does the same here for Dark. I have this urge to actually be in a town like that, right? Again, that transportive quality. I don't know if that sounds crazy, but yeah, that's how I feel. I'm, seeing these images and seeing these places and, the nonstop rain, it makes me kind of want to be there. But yeah, let me try to circle back again. I'm probably going to do this a lot, so, I apologize ahead of time. But, sometimes you're about to speak of one thing and then, another thing kind of pops in your mind and you kind of just have to get it out at that moment. But let's circle back to that conclusion, back to Tannhaus. Yes, so incredible setup there, incredibly exciting setup there. I'm so excited to see his reaction once Mystery Man pulls out that contraption, right? Again, confirmed to us that, H.G. Tannhaus built that, or he created that, right? He constructed it. And he actually finished construction in that cliffhanger they showed us. Again, remains to be seen if that was before or after he actually meets Mystery Man. But it's one of those things in time travel talk, right? The notion or the concept of, say a famous person, a famous painter or, a musician or anyone, say a time traveler from the future, ends up mentioning the piece they actually created, right? Or, plays the piece they actually created or a part of it or shows them something, a portion of it. And then, that kind of gives them the inspiration to go on and actually make it in the first place. Then, the question becomes, is it their creation? Is it the time traveler's creation, right? But it's not. It's not really the time traveler's creation, but it's that endless loop, that paradox, right? The chicken or the egg type thing going on here. So there is a possibility of that angle here. And speaking of the stranger or the mystery man, who I believe to be future Jonas, I'd say I'm like 90% sure this is meant to be future Jonas. This episode actually gave us a few more really cool hints. Him actually approaching Jonas or approaching his younger self. So that had me so giddy and excited. And I'll return to Mystery Man and Jonas sitting on that bench. But sticking on the stranger or the mystery man, you see that he's still kind of out here looking for answers himself, right? Clearly he's been through quite a bit. He knows quite a bit, but it's also clear that he's still after answers. He's still searching for something. Again, you look at his hotel room and the plethora of information that he's digging into and studying, it's clear that he's also trying to figure some things out. He's looking for answers. And of course, you know, this journey of his kind of takes him to H.G. Tannhaus. And, you know, I think it kind of goes into that notion or possibility of people having different agendas. Now you see this newly established Noah figure who seems to be someone that is really a major player in all of this. You know, it feels like he's got a different agenda, and you see that Mystery Man, Stranger, has a different agenda as well, right? There's multiple parties here that are time traveling, and you know they seem to have different ideas or different, you know, goals or journeys through time, essentially. And of course, he has some really interesting things to say to Jonas, right? His potential younger self. And, you know, in that sense, it really felt like this intimate moment, right? And Jonas himself is probably also a bit, you know, rattled after that because, you know, this stranger, essentially he is a stranger to Jonas, you know, kind of came up to him and, you know, spoke of some really interesting things. And, you know, he spoke of his father, like he really knew his father, right? So again, another reason to believe that indeed this is future Jonas. And, you know, a thing he mentioned here, you know, death is incomprehensible, but you can make your peace with it. And to me, you know, the moment he said that, that immediately described some of the things I noticed or I was describing in my episode 1 discussion, right? And I touched up on that point a few more times since then. You know, Mikkel or Mikael or Michael's demeanor before he hung himself or as he's about to hang himself, right? Again, it kind of fits like a glove almost. That notion that, okay, you know, it might be incomprehensible, but, you know, understanding and making peace with it and knowing that, you know, maybe this is the right path or this is the thing to do here because it needs to be done, right? And that, of course, goes to, you know, the incredible letter reveal moment. I mean, that hit me hard. That hit me really hard. I didn't expect it to move me that much, right? But it did. It did. And I think that is great credit to the writing. And again, it also, maybe it's more of like a personal thing as well, because like I mentioned, you know, I wasn't just saying that for the sake of saying it. I legitimately have a strong attachment to Mikkel and that character and the journey and the tragic journey he's had, right? So yeah, that really hit me hard, even though I already kind of clocked it a few episodes ago, right? So yeah, you know, that's a credit to the writing that it was still able to, you know, make me really emotional over that scene, really upset over that scene. You know, it just kind of came pouring out. I was kind of surprised sitting here. I'm like, whoa, okay, tears are kind of flowing out of my eyes right now. But also I think it was a combination of things that kind of, you know, made me quite emotional during that scene. I mean, it's a powerful scene. It's quite an affecting scene. You know, it's emotionally resonant. And yeah, you know, it really got me. So I thought, you know, it was a combination of maybe, you know, Innes's kindness. You know, I've been, since episode 3, since I saw young Innes the first time in Past and Present, you know, I've really just adored this human, this character, essentially, that has shown so much kindness to, you know, this child. And then, of course, you know, Jonas actually finding out about his father right after being in the dark for so long and feeling like he knows nothing about his father, to then, you know, reading this letter and knowing this heartbreaking and tragic story, the things his father has gone through. You know, his heart must be absolutely broken right now reading that letter. And I thought it was a great moment, you know, Jonas reading that letter in silence as the tears just flow, right? And of course, as he finishes, a lot of things dawn on him, right? He clocks a lot of different things, including some of the familial connections that are in play now because this has been confirmed to him, right? And again, you know, the really, I mean, it's not really a funny thing, but, you know, earlier in the episode, he kind of reconnects with Marta. And just now he's found out that, okay, that's actually my aunt, right? So, yeah, it's funny how that kind of, you know, played out. Just as he kind of reconnects, he also finds out, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that because that's my aunt, right? Surely it's dawned on him by now, and I think you could tell in some of the facial acting after he reads the letter, right? You can see 100 different things are kind of running through his mind at the moment. You know, that his mind is just racing, and nothing needs to be said, right? It's all in the face. So great acting there, I thought. You know, in that sense, not just Marta, he's probably, you know, clocked all of the different relations and connections, right? If Mikkel is his father, then, you know, Magnus and Marta are, of course, his uncle and aunt, and then Ulrich and Katharina are his grandparents, right? So yeah, there's all that. Now he knows all of that. And of course, there is also Innes, who read the letter. So she knows all of those things as well, right? All the different connections. But, you know, speaking of the letter, Ines has the letter, right? Right now, in the present timeline, she has a letter, the letter. This is the same letter. It's the exact same letter. But it's traveled quite a bit. It looks like it looks like Mystery Stranger had that letter on him for some time, that he was carrying that letter for some time, potentially for this moment exactly, you know, to give it to Jonas or potentially to his younger self at this precise moment, right? Meaning that at some point, at some point, it's kind of like an endless loop. The letter's kind of stuck in this endless loop, but that means that Jonas has to get that letter from his grandma at some point, right? Because she has the letter. So Jonas has to get that letter from his grandma. And of course, you know, this also sets up that possibility, right? That now that he knows, he is going to go and, you know, meet up or try to meet up with grandma, and he's going to have a lot of questions for her. And a logical question that could come out of that is, you know, he might be angry. He might be angry that, you know, his grandma did not do anything to stop this, right? But of course, you know, she's going to tell him, you know, I didn't open the letter. I didn't open the letter until after, you know, the specified time. And, you know, again, that kind of goes back to that notion of her having the letter and not Hannah or Jonas, because I think, you know, the idea here was that indeed, you know, it's too risky to let Hannah or Jonas have that letter after Mikael or Michael hangs himself, right? Because it would be really tough to not just rip it open instantly, right? So it goes to the mom instead. So again, there's that disconnect there. How did the mom end up getting that letter? But yeah, that was one of the great things about this episode. Like I mentioned, you know, a lot of answers and revelations, but also setups for meetings and more questions, right? Stranger, Mystery Man, the Stranger, and Tannhaus. Now you have a potential meeting that could happen between Jonas and his grandma, right? Confrontation, essentially. A grilling, perhaps. But, you know, the really cool thing here is, or the really mind-blowing thing here is that if he takes this letter to her, right, and she pulls out the letter she has, that's the same letter. That's the exact same copy. But again, one is in kind of like pristine condition and the grandma's had it, but the other one's traveled quite a bit and Mystery Man has had it on him for some time, clearly, from the looks of it. So how does that play out here, right? And, you know, there's a great moment as she actually gets to see his name for the first time, right? She opens up the book and it said the property of Mikkel. So I thought that was a beautiful moment. She finally gets a name. Jonas right now, our present timeline Jonas, is just, you know, finding out about these time traveling things that are going on. He just found out that, you know, indeed his father is young Mikkel, who disappeared on that night. So essentially he was with his father in his last moments before he goes missing, and is kind of, you know, forced to spend the rest of his life in 1986 and on, right? From that point on. The thing here is that, you know, you see that Mikkel or Mikael or Michael understood. There's a clear understanding that, you know, everything is connected, that this is like this endless loop, cause and effect and all of that, right? He understood. He understood all of that clearly from the sound of that letter, right? Because, you know, he mentions, you know, once you understand that everything is connected, or once you understand things, you'll understand my reasoning for having to do this. Though, of course, there is still something missing here, right? This is still early days. It's only episode 5, so there's still some stuff missing here. And I feel like slowly I'm going to get a drip feed of Mikkel or Mikael or Michael, right? And how he was able to, you know, understand some of these things, because there's clearly so much I don't know yet, right? That he knew, and it was quite confident about in that letter, right? And, you know, like Mystery Man mentioned, you know, death is incomprehensible, but you can make your peace with it. And from the sounds of that letter, you could tell that Mikkel made his peace. I mean, again, going back to the whole, you know, setup and the type of time travel that's at play here, and the rules of that timeline, everything that is happening was always meant to happen, right? Nothing can change that. You know, it's kind of like a predetermined closed loop. It's an endless loop, but it's closed, right? Repeating in this endless cycle, connected in this endless cycle. Mikkel was always meant to go missing that night. He was meant to disappear that night. And because of that, you know, he ends up in 1986, grows up there. He met Hannah. They had Jonas, right? So if that doesn't happen, Jonas doesn't exist. He just doesn't exist. But since it's all, you know, always meant to happen, Jonas was always going to exist, right? Because his father was going to go missing, or Mikkel was going to go missing, who then ends up becoming his father. And I brought up the potential of characters not accepting that everything is predetermined, and that, they cannot accept that they have no choice in this, right? Young Jonas here, present timeline Jonas here, his mind is just blown at this moment in time, right? He must be thinking, this is just insane. It's crazy, if that is the case, why not stop it? Why not step in and do something to stop it, right? So yeah, remember I mentioned, there could be characters that don't accept this. Yeah, I could see present timeline Jonas potentially being that type of character, that he might not accept this, right? Imagine thinking a loved one has died, and that something could have been done to actually prevent that. And that's why I think it's going to be a bit of a angry reunion, confrontation essentially, if he does end up going back to grandma's house or something, to meet her and tell her about this and confront her about this. So yeah, let's see. This is early days. But if that ends up being future Jonas, right? Mystery Man, the stranger, he's been through this phase, right? He recognizes this phase, right? And now he's kind of there to almost guide his younger self, right? Kind of help him through these early stages. So the thing is, I already know, if that is future Jonas, I already know that things stay the way they are, right? Say that this Jonas actually time travels and actually tries to change something. Nothing changes, because if this ends up being future Jonas, everything is still the same, right? But doesn't mean he might not try something, right? Again, there's, a lot of distinct setup here that, yes, Jonas is going to maybe attempt time travel at some point. He's being guided in the right direction. And of course, Mystery Stranger gave him a box. He shipped out this box that had the letter. It had that torch that clearly, it's meant to stay on because the flashlights get a bit finicky. So, he sent him that really cool looking light source and some kind of meter, right? So again, he's being equipped to go back in the caves and potentially find that crossing, right? So yeah, even if he does try to change things, I already know things don't change, right? And that's in line with the setup of the timeline, and Tannhaus explains that in the last episode, right? Be it in the cold open or near the conclusion, right? That it's one timeline and it's kind of set in stone, right? It's predetermined. But, let's circle back to the bench and, Mystery Man and Jonas sitting there. I mean, the shot itself, it's one of my favorite shots of anything in a long time. It really is. I just loved everything about that shot, and the connotations and the implications of that moment. Those two individuals sitting on that bench, right? And of course, it's in the cemetery, and that's become this reoccurring place that comes up a lot. Be it through Yana, taking those action figures to Mads' grave, right, in the present timeline, be it Ines going there, be it Jonas going there, be it Mystery Stranger going there. And of course, in the background, you have this looming presence of the church and the extension to the church, the religious aspect of it, right? And of course, the religious aspect really gets turned up a notch here through the introduction of Noah, right? The introduction proper, essentially. And speaking of the stranger, you see that Jonas has the red thread he left on his bike. Now, in this episode, it became clear that it's actually a noose, right? As he's got it in his hands in his bed in the beginning, in the cold open. It looked like a noose. And of course, I mentioned earlier, Ariadne and, Theseus and the Minotaur in the labyrinth. You see Marta is up there by herself, a one-person show. And, they set this up as early as episode 1. They established that she's a theater kid. And then there's a poster of Ariadne, or, a poster of her performance essentially in her room, right? You see that she's got the red thread around her, kind of like a belt. And then, of course, the next logical point becomes the introduction of Noah, right? This is a major player, man. This is a major player in this story. He's got his hands like in these different timelines. He knew about Bartosz, and clearly Bartosz is important to something, right? And there's an early setup there for that. So like I mentioned, that conversation must be an interesting one, to say the least. Yeah, so Bartosz isn't, it was starting to feel like maybe Bartosz is like the side character. No. You know, everyone is in focus here, right? He's going to have a role to play here, clearly. But yeah, as expected, Noah did end up being this religious figure, right? He's this priest. And, you know, even though it's not really going in that direction, I think there's a bit of commentary there. You know, you have this priest figure and, you know, these young boys are going missing. So, you know, I mean, that can't just be a coincidence there, right? But that's not the reason they're going missing. That's not the reasoning behind it. But still, you know, there is a priest at the heart of it who's making this happen. You know, again, they confirm that Yasin did get taken by other mystery man or other hooded figure who is clearly there on Noah's behalf. Though Noah himself is also time traveling, right? As confirmed in this episode. Yeah, you know, he mentioned that God has a plan for every human being, including you, right? So he specifically knows about Mikkel. He knew Bartosz. He knew Yasin. He knew Ellie Doppler. He knew Charlotte Doppler. He knows everything, essentially. So, you know, that's why it feels like such a major introduction, right? Immediately established as a major player in the narrative, like I mentioned earlier. And, you know, one of the things that they really draw your attention to is the notebook he has, the brown notebook, right? It happened twice. As Bartosz kind of leans in, you see it's on his lap. And then in the conclusion of that scene, you know, it kind of focuses just on the hand on top of that notebook, right? So kind of unmissable there. And I think that was by design. They really want you to notice that notebook. And I believe I've seen that notebook, or I've seen something that looks quite similar. And that was in episode 2, I believe, as Tronte Nielsen he's doing something, right? He's got his hand in his pocket and you see a glimpse of that notebook. Brown cover, right? Is there a connection here? Is this the same notebook, right? So, you know, that was one of the questions, right? I had. Do they know the hooded figure that's kind of here on behalf of Noah? And of course, there's quite an accurate depiction or drawing of Noah now, right? Because Ellie Doppler described him and they drew him up. Yeah, so I don't think he's going to be sticking around for that long, right? Clearly, he is... he's stepping in to make sure some things are happening or some things are on track, right? But yeah, I doubt he'll be sticking around for much longer. But, you know, meeting up with Bartosz was something important for sure. And meeting up with Ellie Doppler and giving her that watch. And of course, you know, Yasin was taken as well. Though he didn't take Yasin himself. It was his henchman, his right-hand man from the looks of it. But let me jump to Hannah, who certainly... had a lot of screen time and a lot of development, a lot of character development in this episode. I mean, I certainly get to learn about Hannah and her disposition, essentially. You know, she did something quite terrible out of jealousy and spite, right? You know, she falsely accused the person she's essentially obsessed with of rape. Right? Because it was clear, you know, they set it up. They made it crystal clear that this is consensual, right? It's all planned out. There's no rape going on there. You know, there's no assault going on there. There's no sexual assaults going on there. But, you know, she's capable of that. You know, it was establishing that even at that young age, she was capable of something like that. Again, out of jealousy and spite. Listen, you know, part of it is understandable. You know, some of the feelings she's having, you know, that's high school for you. You know, it's puberty, it's that age. But, you know, again, she took it a step too far. And again, that's a thing that is clear here and should be noted that she is able to do that, or she is capable of doing that at that age. So imagine her now, right? Because now it looks like it might be repeating itself. History might be repeating itself and she might do something. You know, she certainly established that no, I'm not just gonna let you go, Ulrich. You know, just because you want me to get lost and, you know, you just want to cut me out of all of this out of the blue. No, it's not gonna be that easy. Yeah, so, you know, she's capable. So she scares me in that sense, you know, because if she did that at that age, imagine what she could do now. And of course, you know, in this episode, in this present timeline, this is one of the most awkward and tense and unpleasant, uncomfortable scenes of the entire show so far. You know, her going straight to Ulrich's house because she's sick of just calling and him hanging up or not answering back. 22 missed calls, I believe, which might be the same amount of missed calls Marta had from Bartosz, right? I could be wrong on that, but I think that might be the same thing, right? I think I noticed the same numbers there. But go back to Hannah. Yeah, she's like, no, I'm going to go straight to the source and find out. It's a bit, you know, this behavior is a bit unhinged. It's obsessive. Some could say, you know, it's psycho behavior. But again, you know, it takes two to tango, you know. Ulrich asking her to get lost and asking her to just, you know, leave them alone, never, you know, get in contact again. I mean, that's a bit unrealistic on his end as well, right? He certainly played his part in all of this. But yeah, you know, as expected, Katharina put it together. She clocked it, especially after, you know, she decided, oh, okay, hold up. Is this the person? You know, is this the potential person he's been cheating with? She goes in for that hug. She really digs in, right? Gets a whiff of that hair and the coat. And, you know, then she looks up and, you know, that look, you know, Ulrich is kind of oblivious at that point. But, you know, she looks at him and it's clear she knows at that point. But Ulrich didn't quite clock it. Though, of course, she confronts him about it later. And Ulrich kind of fucked up there, right? That was his chance. He should have just come clean and see what happens, right? But he didn't say anything. But, you know, staying on that topic of the false allegation, and it's quite a major false allegation, you know, given their relationship right now and the friendship, and seeing how friendly Ulrich and Hannah have been, I don't think they knew. I don't think they know. I mean, yeah, I guess it was confidential, right? They had no... I guess, you know, Tiedemann and the police didn't have any need to tell anyone. And I feel like for Hannah to do this, she must have been assured that no one's going to know about this, that it was you who came to the police. So yeah, you know, if it looks like they didn't even know about this. They still don't know about this, that she did this all those years ago. And, you know, they ended up marrying. I'm speaking of Katharina and Ulrich. And, you know, Katharina mentioned no kids ever. But, you know, it kind of goes back to episode 1. Ulrich kind of teasing her about, oh, who wanted kids again? And then in that split screen, as Ulrich is getting arrested, you know, Tiedemann is kind of standing there all proud. Or there's some semblance of, you know, I gotcha. Finally got you, kid. That might be another reason, you know, Ulrich is so disillusioned, or he was so disillusioned, and he wanted to be the best version of a policeman, right, or investigator, because he saw just how incompetent this person was. You know, he knows he's innocent, yet he's been taken in for, you know, rape accusations. But, you know, in that split screen, they show us Katharina, and she's, you know, clearly she's been crying because the mascara has been flowing, but she also has some bruises or blood on the left eye. Now, you know, the show firmly established that no, you know, it was all consensual, but that could be maybe her parents, you know, maybe a little bit old school parents, or a parent that probably struck her maybe upon finding out about this. But, you know, that in itself, even if it is a parent, that's incredibly fucked up, right? Potentially finding out that, oh, okay, your daughter has been potentially been raped, right? And your, you know, initial inclination is to strike her, right? Or to hit her. I don't know. Let's see. I don't think that was Ulrich. And, you know, speaking of Hannah trying to get in contact with Ulrich, you know, the phone is this, you know, motif throughout the series, be it for communication or denying communication. You see that there's a set of individuals trying to get in contact and being denied, and then there's a set of individuals being contacted, but they're denying it or ignoring it, right? In the end, it ends up just being everyone by themselves to their own thoughts, right? Though, of course, you know, that kind of changes a bit as Hannah kind of just goes to the source, goes straight to the house. You see Jonas kind of breaks out of that too, and he goes to Marta. And then you see Bartosz kind of calls over Jonas. And, you know, even that was kind of like to get a little bit of information out of Jonas about Marta, possibly. And, you know, in terms of the technical side and the production side, it continues to be phenomenal. You know, great use of split screen, great use of the montage. And they certainly know how to pick the song. The song selection here is just perfect, absolutely perfect for all of these moments, right? And, you know, these split screens really utilize a lot of great juxtaposition. A lot of plot and thematic meaning is on display throughout these split screens, right? So yeah, you know, it's just highly effective. It's a fantastic narrative tool, and they're using it to perfection, essentially. It doesn't feel like it's being done just for the sake of the split screen or the montage, right? There's a lot to dig into in these scenes. And of course, you know, the whole element of things repeating themselves. You see, you know, the love triangle. You've got Hannah, Katharina, and Ulrich in 1986. Then you've got, now again, it's kind of turning into this triangle thing, right? You've got Marta, Bartosz, and Jonas. Of course, you know, now Jonas just recently found out that, okay, that's actually my aunt. So this is going to make things really tricky because, you know, right after they've just kind of reconnected and kissed, he's probably going to have to avoid her, right? And then, of course, you know, this whole situation kind of, you know, sets up friction between Jonas and Bartosz. And lastly, I should mention the gravestone for Mikkel, right? They showed it once again at the end there in that split screen, as Ines is there too, and she's got the book. They changed the date to 1975, right? And that adds up to 11 years, right? He showed up in 1986, and at that point he was 11 years old, right? So they changed the date to 1975, or Ines changed the date to 1975 to have it be his new official date of birth. Right then, that's about it for this one. A big episode, a major episode in this story. A lot of major revelations, and then of course a lot of great setup for things that might happen now. Or I need answers to, right? So perfect, perfectly balanced. So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in full length for this episode, or maybe even early access to the next episode right now, consider checking out the Patreon page. The link is in the description or the pinned comment. But yeah, that's about it for this one. Once again, thoroughly enjoyed it. Really excited for the next episode as well, especially after that cliffhanger. Yeah, like I said, they really know how to do a cold open and a cliffhanger, don't they? They really know how to bookend these episodes. They're quite clever. So thank you for joining me for this one, and I hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.